Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah. Bismillah. We evoke and acknowledge that we've come from the One, the Absolute, unknowable, but yet there, constant in our hearts. We recognize that that reality is with us, that He is Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He is merciful beyond our capability to grasp and understand, yet He is Rahim, so that we can, in our relative way, in our conditioned way, experience it and have it be a pointer to the ultimate. I'd like to begin with a beautiful poem that Shaykh Fadhlalla added to his new upcoming book. And it says, if you want to be free of self, haunt the tavern of love. In this sanctuary, egoism is heresy. Only lovers who have no fear can enter. Only here the bird of breath can nest and rest in the palm of the beloved's hand. This is from Mahmoud al-Shabastari, Rahmatullah alayhi. So the first thing that we want to discuss today is take it, and all the questions that are going to be put forth to Shaykh Fadhlalla today are universal questions that echo in the heart and in the creation of the human being, within the human being, throughout history, and especially what is important to all of us who are seekers, who are wanting to know. These are the questions that are in our hearts now. So pay attention, turn off the cell phone, be quiet, sit in a place where you won't be disturbed, and listen. Listen with your mind, listen with your heart, listen with your whole being. Bismillah. Shaykh Fadhlalla, thank you so much for being here, being present with us. Shaykh Fadhlalla, what is the ultimate source of discontent and suffering for the human being?
It's a divine gift. There are numerous drives in each living entity, whether it's an ant, a mouse, or a horse, or a human being. There are drives in us. They are forces that propel us towards higher levels of consciousness. So suffering, discontentment, misery, illness, pain, all of them are part of this orchestration of drives. Whatever is alive has been touched by the ever-living, and the ever-living is ever-perfect. Is not subject to space and time, or good or bad, or happiness or unhappiness. It just is, in utter perfection, timeless, boundless, eternal. Now, so we are all touched by that. Therefore, we are upset if anything is interrupting that perfection zone that we are all the time calibrating with. We all want to be happy, content, secure. Lose myself, because the self is a shadow of the soul. So we're all the same. We're all driven towards higher level of consciousness, which is what radiates from the soul itself, from the spirit itself, from the divine light within the heart itself. Each living entity, once it has been touched by life, is obsessed with life, and was that forever. It wants to continue to be connected with life, continuously with life, and maintaining consciousness. When you suddenly find you have an hour more in your hand because you made a mistake, you are delighted. You have an hour extra, more experience of being alive. And when you discover also you are 5 hours behind, you're quite upset because you lost time. I lost the whole day. It caused me. It's all loss and gain. That's why each one of us is a trader. We want more time to have on our hand, less time lost. Meaning, we want eternal presence of that connectedness with time itself, eternally. That's the nature of the soul. So what you want is already there, but you're looking somewhere else and not being able to close down all of the distractions, the fears, the anxieties, to help us to focus until you lose focus, until you lose all in that which is neither found nor lost. That is the state of your soul. So we suffer because we have not yet been touching, calibrating with, recharging from that ever-present divine source within the heart. Perfect design. We're driven by effort, by hope, by fears, by weeping, by laughing, by whatever. We love hope. What is hope? Tomorrow may be better, may be easier. The after may be more natural for you to be constantly touching the infinite whilst living, communicating, interacting with the finite. That's all what it is. There's nothing more you can do. Nothing more you can do other than being in balance between the eternal nature of your own soul and the ever-changing, the nature of yourself and the world in which we are living in, which is almost like a second womb, confinement within space and time.
You know, it seems like what you're pointing to is that, to give you an example, is that when I'm going to make my salat, and I've heard this from so many people, prayer or meditation, as soon as I make that intention and I sit quietly, instantly the mind comes into play. Every little thing, from maybe what you did in the morning, what you're projecting to do in the future that day, maybe a week later, maybe a circumstance that happened with your family, whatever it is, it seems to come in and almost intentionally disrupt that attempt at silence. So what is the nature and role of the mind toward our understanding and awakening?
Anything that exists has been touched by the source of life. Anything that has been touched by life asserts itself. It's not just the mind, it's not just the bacteria, it's not just the lion. Everything, anything that has been touched with life is in ecstatic reverence, love, and obsession with life itself. Mind is one of those. It wants to assert itself. The ego is the same. See? They are cousins. It wants to assert itself. Me. And if you ignore me, I'm going to cause havoc. It's like a child. 2-year-old, 3-year-old, they come to the living room. If you don't give them attention, they're playing God. God's light is emanating from their heart. But they are at a stage of consciousness that none of these different levels of consciousness, let alone discrimination and referencing, none of these have been developed as yet. And in most people, it never gets developed. You find people in their 60s, 70s, they're still acting like stupid children. At least there is a hope for a 3-year-old, 4-year-old. But so, mind is that. It is a entity that has been created. It was fresh at a time in which it is in action. It is expressing something, linking something, connecting with something, and then it becomes stale. And then it becomes memory. Oh, there was a day that they respected me, and now all of the young people ran away from me. How wonderful. The young people are intelligent. You are a bore. What do they gain from you? Everybody is there for a benefit upon benefit. What is the benefit for them? You're sulking and sinking with some stupid memories that any intelligent being would have buried it in a cemetery and gone. But you are all the time digging your own little graves. No, I was very respectable, or I had a lot of money, or I had a lot of position. I was the chief, whatever. I was the king. So what? These were different little roles that were assigned to you, and they're gone. Mind is that. It's a link that enables the cosmic soul in me and in you and him and her to put up with the insecurity, the ever-changing, the ever-shadowy, the world that we are in. So without the mind, you won't be in this world. With a mind, with a sound mind, you are barely functional. What if you didn't have a mind? But with only a mind, then you end up just as almost as efficient as a machine. That's why they say artificial intelligence is better than you. Maybe in a repetitive, mechanical way, but the human being has another aspect, which is a love affair with the soul or spirit. That will prevail, no matter how much you had loved money, women, position, whatever. That inner love will prevail over all of them. The love of your own soul. So that is why the lover of Layla, after years of going from one village to another looking for Layla, eventually she is there. She says, but I am Layla. She says, no, my Layla can never be found. It's the soul. That is the real Layla. Okay?
Yeah,
It's hidden. It's there because of your life. But you cannot describe it because it's beyond description. It's timeless, boundless. That's it. That's the whole story. You have to accept this basic sketch and enjoy it. And laugh at your stupidity and at your mistakes. Get up and talk about it. Say, I made the same mistake over and over. Why do you make the same mistake over and over? Why do you always go back to the same fault? Subconsciously, habits, rituals, repetitiveness give us the illusion of continuity. I've always done it like this. So it gives you the illusion of your soul is beyond continuity. It's timeless. Stop this fantasy, mimicking it. The so-called you is not continuous. You're not the same as you were 5 minutes ago, an instant ago, ever changing. But by virtue and by grace of that which never changes. That's all. Once you get the story, then you really are liberated from your own illusions, delusions, and stupid conclusions. That's it. And then you see things for what they are, and then you want to rest. You want to rest the body, rest the mind, reflect it with others. You want friends. You want to have reasonable exercise, reasonable body, reasonable health, reasonable physics, chemistry, biology, physiology. That's all. And when the time is come for you to be at one and be only the soul, it will come. And cheerfully you leave your body and your mind and into another cemetery. But you have to live that sketch. First, to have an idea about it. Initially, you, in a way, cannot accept it because it's foreign to you. It's not a foreign language, not just a language, foreign culture, foreign religion, foreign dimension of reality. So you don't want it. You go past. Say, not now. No, this is spirituality or religion. Not now. I have other things to do. Because familiarity. You don't want to face something that you have no clue about. You don't like. It's disheartening. Not knowing. You become very insecure. And you like to be secure because your soul and spirit is utterly secure, beyond security. So the so-called you, its shadow, likes to be secure. So suddenly if you are confronted with this new sketch, there are two of you. One is evolving over time from the moment of the Big Bang or creation occur, energized, given life by the other, which is eternal, not subject to space and time. So there are two of you. That's what it's confusion. The more you refer to the real you, the light in you, the light emanating from your heart, your own spirit or soul, the less likely that you feel insecure or make stupid, irreversible, idiotic mistakes. That's all.
So all these things that you're mentioning, the mind and the ephemeral experiences, they're all there designed in a way to urge you on. They are limited in experience, so you get the indication of the unlimited. And so what is that connection between the relative ephemeral and the ever reliable permanent?
They cannot be separated. They are inseparable. The so-called I, the animal I, the human I exists because of that perpetual, eternal life itself, which exists not subject to any space or time. They are inseparable. There cannot be a so-called I unless there is a real I. And the real I is so powerful, so immense, that it has to be shielded and covered and screened, like the sun. You have to you have to shield it. I can't see it. That's why it took the Earth many, many billions of years with the increase in ultraviolet light, other layers in the stratosphere, atmosphere, beyond, so as it becomes habitable. It's not too intense, too immense. So the same thing as the nature of the soul or spirit or divine presence. There's only divine presence. But it can only be truly, in every way, lived entirely by its, moved by its grace, by recognizing all other distractions. The human distraction, the emotional distraction, the personal, the tribal, the racial, and. Once you recognize these are all distractions, they are all to do with differentiations in the zone of dualities, pluralities, and multiplicities. They're fine, you have to deal with them, you have to acknowledge them, and then go higher along the ladder of consciousness towards its source, which is pure consciousness, divine consciousness, absolute consciousness, and so on. Don't denounce conditioned consciousness. Without it, we won't exist in this way. But move on from it. Don't deny the love you had for your mother, to hug her, to take her milk or whatever. Don't deny the wonderment of a 3 or 4 year old child wanting attention. He or she considers themselves the center of the universe, because that's what the soul is, the center of the universe. So if you don't give them attention, they scream and they make noise in order to attract attention. So you have to see things for what they are, all emanating from the soul.
So that perfectly leads into this. Shaykh Fadhlalla. This is a question I think that echoes in everybody consistently, is that especially when we hear these things that you just said, that if every part belongs to the whole, every ephemeral thing belongs to the whole, but where is that which contains every part and every whole? Where is the center of all?
I will leave behind the word belong. We've inherited that from structured religions. In the zone we are in, there is matter, antimatter, energy, and all of the other things in between. It is here where we say, this belongs to me, this doesn't belong to me. And that is what causes a lot of human suffering. Much of today's suffering is because of the rapid change in what was considered to be a very strong bond in relationships. Take a family, husband, wife. I belong to him, she belongs to me, I control. And invariably it has to lead to destruction. Because you don't own anything. Who is the real you? Where are you, in a coma or in deep sleep or whatever? These are all tiny, tiny, tiny little roles we're given to play within the confinement of space and time. So we have to accept the rapid change and upward arch of consciousness. Human consciousness today is not what it was 20 years ago, not what it was 50 years ago, almost foreign to what it was 100 years ago. People had reverence, they had respect, they wanted to elevate things. They exaggerated also their leaders, especially if they were religious or spiritual. They would completely, not just airbrush, they take it out of even their mind, the human faults and follies of the religious, if you like, top man or woman. They wanted them to be pure, God on earth. This was needed at that time. 10,000 years ago, it was many people had that godly qualities of the age of the discovery of the early patriarchs and prophets, and then religions came, and then formal religions, and then priesthood, and then the king wanted to be sanctified for the public by a priest. So that's why, they invented a priest gives legitimacy to the king or the queen. And the king or the queen looks up also respectfully, at least in the eye or in front of the public, to the priest. And so on, until they began to discover that actually it became an issue of power. And most of the priests are after money. And most of the priests, if they're supposed to be celibate and so on, they end up being more destructive and more sinful than others, as we all know. It's a lie. You're a human being. Human being has its limitations. Human being has hers or his needs as a human being, partly to survive, live, wash, clean, procreate if they are still active sexually, on and on. Can't deny any of these things. But more than that, how can you ever deny that the drive of the human being emanates from a center that is everywhere? It's the center of all centers of all centers. And that is to transcend the limitations of the mind and dualities and pluralities. This is important, this is more important, all of differentiated sameness. You must move from differentiated to sameness. Not until you regard somebody whom you know is against you, is your enemy. Not until you regard him or her as a dear friend. How can that be? By excluding the human side, their mind. Look at their soul or spirit, the same as yours, so they are friends. But not easy to exclude their mind because their action is terrible. They're coming waving a sword at you. Not easy. It says in the Quran, nobody gets it unless they are people of immense fortune. That means you really see it entirely through the light of the soul or spirit itself. It's the same. Another being as I. That's why not until you see every other human being truly as a divine soul, which is eternal, caught for a while with hundreds of different screens and covers, genetic, color, race, culture, religion, and then becomes the so-called me. Take away that light, there is no me. You have to immediately bury them, otherwise in a hot climate like ours, it will stink. You have to see it for what it is. And then you know that in truth you are a soul and a spirit, timeless, eternal, but going through a short journey of a few years from birth to death, so that you rise to the highest level of your intelligence. That's the whole story. Basic intelligence initially is just that of simple cleverness, foxiness, wolfiness, and on and on and on until you find no. It's higher, 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 higher. And that ultimate intelligence is what connects you with the spirit within you. And then you go beyond differentiation. And that remains within your spectrum of consciousness. You still can differentiate, but it's of minimal importance. I want a nourishment so as my body can function. All right, I can get this protein from this source or that source or vegetables. Essentially, they are the same. Ultimately, it ends up the same molecule. But it has come from different channels. You have to wake up to it. Not many people will be able to do it. They're too busy in order to earn a living, and for that they need to lie and conceal and deceive and on and on and on. So it will be not easy to be with someone who understands that he or she need to have some skill, do something, but equally the most important part of their quality of life, switch everything off and be with that cosmic oneness that is not in the mind, that is a quality of the heart or the soul. And you can't describe it. That's
Today people are looking, and many people become parts of meditation groups, and they want to belong to different religions and so on. So do I need to follow a prescribed spiritual path? And what is the ultimate prescription?
if you need, if you enjoy, if you like to belong, belongs. Nothing wrong with that. It's part of a package that each one of us is. Your social life is very important. It connects with emotional life, it's very important. It connects with status and acknowledgement and familiarity. It's very important. You want to be with like-minded, like-hearted people. You love to have a community. It was our main safety, if you like, net many centuries ago. So you like, are they our people? That's why also even religious people or spiritual people ended up, if you're not with us, you're against us. Is he one of us or is he not one of us? It still is there, but it will fall off soon. Maybe 100 years, maybe 1,000 years, but it won't last long. Us is who? Spirits, divine spirits, caught for a while in a form of Homo sapiens sapiens. So you want to belong. You want to have neighbors that you understand what they mean. You want to have ease of connectedness. You want to connect. All of the cultural, emotional, linguistic, religious, if you like, connectedness are glues. Initially we were one. There was none other than that unfathomable, intense, dense oneness. Also, if we freeze everything to 273 degrees minus centigrade, all atoms and molecules behave the same way. They lose their so-called identity or personality. That only comes because of heat and pressure and movement and change. In reality, there was only sameness. And that is why all the spirits or souls are the same. Quran says, I created you all from the same soul. And each soul, whether it's a rat or a cat or a mouse or a human, has been exposed to its ultimate highest degree of possibility. That's why it tries to rise to it. That's why the dog loves all the time, takes approval of the master, and the horse, and they want to recalibrate with the limits of their consciousness. We're all within that box. But the truth of you and I and he and she is not boxable. It's a divine spirit. And all what we can do is to practice as much as we can total, utter, perfect silence. In every way, not just sound and noise. Silence in that you lose awareness of separateness, losing yourself. That's why we love losing yourself. That's why drugs, alcohol, sex are so prevalent, because you lose yourself for a little while and you come back again, you feel worse.
So you know that when people pursue, an intelligent person begins to realize that when they pursue these and they see that, well, it's not as good as it was before, or it doesn't give me the ultimate happiness, and then they start to inquire, is there something more? Is there something, a higher level of being, of consciousness? So the question comes as, how can I attain higher consciousness?
Just be honest with the you. The you is a tiny little creature who just doesn't know even how to suck mother's nipple. And the you and the 3-year-old knows to make noise for everybody who looks at you. The you at a 9-year-old is very different. You want to kick the ball better than others. The you as a 25 years old, you want to be recognized in your job or profession or wherever. The you as a 40-year-old, you want to be content more with nothing other than the silence in you. The you as an older person cannot be in any way ascribed to in a physical, chemical, material, biological way. The real you know is your soul. And you know that is boundless. So you can't describe yourself anymore. You say, yes, the so-called me, the human being, I was born, I died, and I came and I went. But these were all shadows, indicated the light. That's all. But you'll be hard put to find few people who are like that.
It seems like though, you're quite right, but it seems like that is the constant indicator in all human beings. All human beings seem to be striving for that. They don't recognize it, they may not be conscious of it, but they seem to all be striving for that transcendent, that their life, as long as they live through life, they see that these things are repetitive, that they find themselves in the same place. So there is that in the nature of man to do that. So, but what happens when that person who emerges, when they know themselves? How does what happens that I know myself? When I
Bring
know
that
myself?
person and I will tell you. There is no such thing as transcendence. These are all words that crept in from the last 50 years, and very much enshrined by hippies and similar and so on. How can it transcend? My soul is in me. Without it, I can't live. So how can I transcend my body? What does it mean? The power of life is in every cell of mine, billions of them. How can I transcend anyone? Who is transcending what? That is the durable, permanent, eternal reality in me. Everything else is possible reality. I don't deny the possible reality. That's all. And when I'm ready really, without fear, without anxiety, with courage, with honesty, I know I am the same. I am a human being. If you step on my foot, I will scream and give you a punch. And if you, whatever it is, the same. And at the same time, at that second itself, I am not separate from the real me that is timeless, not subject to space. You become one with the one. And you don't go around bragging. I am now self-realized. Everybody has to come and bow to me. It's gone, that age of reverential treatment. Gone. We needed it until very recently. Now you enter again into revering whatever it is. Why can't you be in reverence of the air you're hanging on? What's the use of the air if you didn't have strong bones and calcium? They all connect. And what about the glue of it all, which is water? And on and on and on. Miracle upon miracle upon miracle. Enjoy it. And the more you calibrate with the source, with the subtler in you, the healthier you will be. At physical, chemical, biological, mental, emotional, at every level.
And that's the path of perfecting your own nature. Is that it?
There is no such thing. It's already perfect. Even imperfection has perfection in it.
Ah.
You know, something happened. The tree fell and it broke. A vase that I liked and relished, it broke. I'm upset. But okay, upset, express it. Now shut up and see how else could it be other than perfection. The wind came, the tree couldn't bend more, it broke the grass. Perfection upon perfection. But one aspect of that is your relationship with the event. The poor wife had been neglected for years and so on. Every time she comes, her birthday, she puts a new dress, you don't notice it. On and on and on. So one day she said, "Here, Tommy, I've had it. Thank you. Who are you going with?" "I don't know. I just want to go away." You say, "My wife has gone mad." No, you have been stupid. You have taken upon you that we are two inseparable, sharing this miserable double bed. So every time I cough, the poor woman has to wake up and all that other rubbish. The interplay of the, no, we are inseparable too. You know, we are very close to each other. Lie upon lie upon lie. All legacy from the Industrial Revolution. They really wanted them all. It saves money, it saves space, one bed. We are stupid collectively.
Well, so on that note, then what is knowledge? What is Gnosis?
Knowledge is what takes me from the lower reaches of me, ignorance, darkness, fears, anxieties, takes me slowly up to a neutral point. Knowledge is needed for the novice. Knowledge is needed for every one of us as we are trying to see how cause and effect are. Did that come before or after? So that we don't cause a lot of physical, chemical, material mess. Knowledge is to know how to build a straight wall and put a decent roof or clothes, so as I'm not all the time insecure regarding aspects which I have been given the faculties to deal with well. I want a good shelter, I want good clothing, I want good food, I want good health, I want good connection. This is what knowledge. A time comes that you lose all interest in so-called knowledge. Not until you lose truly all interest in anything. Not until you lose that, you are not likely to be at the edge or that which is boundless, beyond knowledge, light itself, from which knowledge is illumined.
And in this, you mentioned so why is patience the best? Why is it important? Patience. Why is patience the best?
No.
Patience.
For a 1-year-old, it's terrible. As the 3-year-old, I don't want to be patient. I want it now. As a 6, 7-year-old, I want now everything, including your love. Patience is one dimension of the two in which I am caught, space and time. Space and time is the womb in which all of us as living entities are. There is a physical womb, your mother's, and there is a global, universal womb. All of us are in it. That is why for many hundreds of years now we try to reduce space. Fast. Give me the conclusion. Fast, fast. No point in telling me. Give me the end of the story. Fast, fast. So we have reached the point of the speed of light. We can't function nowadays without electronics. And electronics relies upon the speed of light. 300,000 kilometers a second. But what about time? Space cannot exist without time. Space is the tableau upon which all of these paintings come and go, or if you like, the screen upon which all of these experiences are flashed. So space is the frame, time is the event inside. We have taken space to its nth degree, not time. Not time. That is personal. That is not cumulative. I can't help you. That you have to suffer, you have to be able to stop time. You have to want to get out of that state in which you are, if you like, suffering. So time is to do with the inner, if you like, reflection, prayers, transformation, silence, all of that. If you're able to stop time, then you are connecting your physical, material, humanity with the light of your divinity. That's why it's very difficult. That's why our situation globally is much more critical and dangerous now than it was 100 years ago. Because we have moved in tremendous speed and complexity regarding space, communication, connection. But time, we're still functional in this situation. This is where the biggest clash is in the case of, if you like, human disaster. It is not crisis, it's an absolute disaster. We can communicate with the other side of the world, but what is the material that you are communicating? What is rubbish upon rubbish upon rubbish? That's why the social media will be shown that is causing more damage in every way, because it's about money making. So how can Facebook be good for society and its quality of life? Cannot be. It's about money. So it will cut across everything that we hope we can experience as glue, connectedness for quality living. No way. There's an inherent contradiction in everything that we are doing. But we call this is progress, we can't do it, no. Ultimately, it is abstract money. That's it.
How do we stop time?
It has to be done by people who experience speed and slowness. That means intelligent beings. It's unlikely for a horse to be able to do. Maybe the upper end of primates, maybe. Human being can. Stop it. I have known in my own life human being who can stop for a while then being nervous or sentient. They performed an eye operation on the fellow where he was completely without any anesthesia. He said, now wait a minute, I'm going to switch off. And they performed it. Few individuals, not easy. The rest of the people are too occupied with, concealment, making money, rushing, dashing, bashing. So there's no experience, no skill in being able to be still. Still. Lose it all. This is what you called earlier transcend. There's no transcend. I am caught in the womb of space and time. But my origin and my destiny is beyond space and time. So the more I can touch that, the more reliable, the more stable, the more content, the more happy for its own sake I am.
You said something the other day, it completely sums what you just said. You said live the relative and refer to the absolute. until you find, in truth, it is only absolute.
Correct. Absolutely, absolutely. And the relative was the little bait that it pulled us, pulled the fish, the so-called eye. Yeah, it is that. And therefore, people who are truly, fully awakened, who are very, very rare, they don't deny the pain. They don't deny, say yes. But in themselves, they can easily cut it out. They've had enough experience of out of body or out of death or near death, if you like, experiences that they're fully familiar with that. So now the time has come. Thank you very much. My body is quite happy to be left alone without the light of consciousness, and my mind too. I thank them. I looked after them. I loved them, and now is the time for me to have acknowledged liberation, or if you like, leaving them behind where they belong, which is the earth. My soul and spirit is not subject to space and time. Goodbye.
Shaykh Fadhlalla, in this preparing this, so as a result of my inadequacies, is there something that I have left out to query with you that you would like to say now, without a question being asked? Just anything that we left out.
There will always be things that are left out. There's, we are in a zone of creation. So the tree of life, it's endless. New branch, new leaf, and then you graft on it, and on and on and on. This question of yours now needs a few weeks to be answered. 100 years ago, it would have taken a day to answer. 1,000 years ago, it would have taken maybe half an hour, because the bifurcations were not as many. Now we have so many different varieties of whatever it is that we discern, in form, in color, in smell, in touch, in consciousness of, in transmission, and endless. So of course there will always be, so what? You don't think I don't want it anymore. Take it away. That is why with intelligence, higher intelligence, you don't need to have, had billions of dollars or, no, you've had enough money, you knew, but a time came, you didn't know what to do with it. Actually, it caused distraction and a lot of trouble. You didn't, so you don't have liberation. I don't know. Okay. It comes after a sample. This life is a sample of eternal life. So you have sampled this. I know this is very sweet, this is very sour, this is a lot, this is very little. I've sampled, finished. So it's endless. So nothing greater is greater gift than contentment with whatever you have been through. So I've seen that, yes. Poor woman, how is she going to make me happy? She has her needs, her desires, her hopes. She wanted to have 7 children, I'm not up to it. She wanted to have her own career because she was more intelligent than others. And what can you do with her? What can she do with another being, another soul, another spirit? Have respect. That's why it's the same, essentially, potentially, as you and him and her. Stop this expectation. Somebody's going to come and save you from you. You have engineered you by your exposures, by what you liked. A lot of it may have been also from childhood. 2 identical twins brought up in the same environment. They are of different, if you like, personalities. At the age of 16, they both saw their parents quarreling. One of them saw in it a human situation, it will pass. The other was affected deeply. So I thought my parents are inseparable. 2 people, 2 identical twins. Slight nuance difference makes a big impact. It's endless. So not until you lose interest in knowledge or curiosity about anything, not until then, you cannot be truly content. Because now you're at the gate of the eternal. The more you get to the gate of the eternal and stay there, switch off, it's nothing more. Because you're entering into another zone of consciousness that is not subject to space and time. So, if I am to share with you anything that can perhaps give an appropriate conclusion for our wonderful discourse, is that human being, having reached a point in evolution, in consciousness, in ability, in outer ease and wealth, that when you say, no, thank you, I'm now all right. I feel comfortable about this roof, my clothes, and food. Now I want to practice as often as I can total contentment, silence, and be at the point where I'm not aware of anything. That's it. Then you have saved yourself from the lower self. With the help of others, with the help of whatever, that's fine. But nobody can give that to you. Not a million gurus, not a million prophets. They can give you an indication, they can tell you you're a fool. You know, you try to be this and that and you are, yes. You need intelligence. Without higher intelligence, you won't reach that point that is between the two zones of consciousness. One is supreme, divine, eternal consciousness. The other one is conditioned, human, earthly consciousness. They are not separable. They are seamlessly connected. But you need to take your conditioned consciousness to the point where you are now on the ladder of the infinite. And you don't brag about it either, because they have been there, they are there, they will always be there like this. So from the quantum field, from the infinite, from the divine precinct, this drip, 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 this continuous drip gives us conditioned consciousness, hanging on to life until you know that there is only life. You've been allowed this in order to not just be obsessed with it, not just be in adoration of it, not just worship it. Lose everything into it because there is only it. But it has to be done personal. It has to be done with yourself. It has to be done with tears of fears and tears of joy and whatever. And if there are one or two people with whom you can share and care and refer, it's helpful. Especially due to the propensity that suddenly you may think you are God. You see, that's the biggest danger. Those days are gone. You know, as of 10, 15,000 years ago, no longer. You know, God the man. There is no such. There is only God, manifesting in every possible form and non-form, and energy and non-energy. We have evolved. We've reached a point where there is no more a secret of the secret in most of the religions. Until a few hundred years ago, they'd say, oh, this business now is a secret. We can't do it. So much talk about Junaid wouldn't speak until there were 7 different doors between him and his small inner circle and the outer public. They were poor peasants scrounging just in order to survive from day to day. Not anymore. We're suffering from excess food. 8 billion people out of a total of 120 billion people who have lived on this earth. 8 billion, and look at them now, running around like maniacs. Nothing is enough. And those who have had enough, and they were deprived a little bit, they hang themselves. That's spoiled children, no adab, no upbringing. Upbringing, who's got upbringing? I haven't found parents who have got it. So how can they upbring a child? They bump into each other, husband and wife, nice, and they go on holiday and they take miserable photographs to enhance the illusion of their delusion. It's ludicrous. You really have to laugh at the stupidity. And occasionally, if you're somebody really close to, cry with them. But the truth is beyond laughing or crying. The truth is so intense and so immense that is only for the few, that you can't even find them. I have it. That's the truth of it.
Wow. Thank you very much, Shaykh Fadhlalla. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, salam.